I think there's nothing more demotivating for someone that wants to be told how to do something, right? Is if you give the objective, educate them, teach them, have a conversation on how to get there, is much more effective.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Hi, this is Gene Hammett. Really excited to talk to you today about creating a place where people want to go to work. Let me be clear about what I mean by this. We all know that people will show up because you pay them to. They show up out of obligation. But in fast-growing businesses, you don't just want them to come in and just do the work. You want them to want to do the work. This is one of the key lines I talk about in my speeches where I'm talking to corporations and organizations and leaders about getting people to want to do the work and not just do the work. Because you don't really get loyalty out of an employee because you pay them. Loyalty comes from a sense of trust and a sense of their own growth, and it's good for them as well as it's good for the organization and it's good for the world. So if you're able to do that, then you're able to create an environment where people want to come to work. I was looking for places where I could find this happening, and I found Justin Bates. Justin is a co-founder at Ford Financing. Ford Financing is one of the fastest growing companies out there. They were 404 on the Inc. list. They grew at 1,238%, and they have over 42 million in 2018. This year, I think they're going to do much more than that. I don't want to give details, but they have hundreds of employees, and they want to create a place where people really love to come to work. In Justin's words, it's where they want to come to work, and they're actually get off the train running to work. I smile when I say that because what I loved about this interview is we talked about some of the key things that you could do as a leader and as an organization that helps people align to the actual work they do to the actual performance of the company. Now, if you did that really well, you can actually get them to want to come to work every day. So here's the interview with Justin. I really love sharing these kind of insights with you. And I'd really love for you to share this with someone else. So if you like what we're hearing here on these podcasts, then make sure you share it with one other person that you feel like would be a good fit to increase the audience and really get some impact from this. Thanks for tuning in here to Grow Think Tank. Really excited about sharing this with you. And before you run, I have done so many interviews in the last few weeks. I have such an exciting time to share with you that those interviews have been organized into the 12 core principles of fast growth companies. So all you have to do to get that is go to genehammett.com/worksheet. So you can get the 12 principles, and I've been able to go in there and find which episodes will align to each individual episode. When you subscribe to Grow Think Tank, you will find exactly what you need so that you can move forward. And many of them haven't been published yet, depending on when you're hearing this, but you can tune in to the date that means the most to you. Hi, Justin. How are you?
Great, Gene. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Excited to have you here on the podcast, Grow Think Tank. When I have introduced you earlier, I talked about some of the fast growth of your company, but I didn't give them much context on what your company actually does. So tell us what they do and who you serve.
Sure. So Ford Financing started the business in 2012. We're focused on providing working capital to small and medium-sized businesses throughout the U.S. Since 2012, we funded over $500 million to over 10,000 small businesses in the U.S.
That is impressive, especially because everyone thinks the loan process is not available to them. But I guess what you're saying is if you've got the right things, you can get a loan.
Yeah, and I mean, our focus specifically is non-bank financing. So typically when businesses go to a bank, they have a 2-week process, audited financial statements, all of that. What we focus on is understanding the business cash flow, owner credit, business credit, and being able to approve in 3 hours or less, up to $300,000.
Well, I appreciate your giving us that context. Just to go in some details, and I wrote these things down here, so I'm going to look at my notes. You were 404 on the list out of 5,000 that showed up on the Inc. 5,000. You did a 3-year growth rate of 1,238%, which is very impressive. And did about 42 million and you have employees. Right now it's about 190. It was less when this was done. So you've continued that level of growth. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I think the year prior, I think we were number 15, something like
Okay.
that. So we were in the top 20. So it's hard to continue on as the base continues to grow. It's hard to keep it up, but yeah, we've been investing in trying to grow the business.
Well, we totally get that. I'm a math nerd of sorts. And so if you tripled again this next year, we know that pace is hard.
Definitely.
But part of the reason why you're growing so fast is because you put some attention to the whole work environment. And when we were talking earlier, Justin, you really talked about people really like what they do there. They want to come to work. And the phrase you used was they actually run to work. So what do you mean they run to work?
So when I say that, I have an image, right? We're based downtown Boston in the financial district. Most of our people are coming in on the commuter rail, on the T. And I have this image is people kind of walking up the stairwell, lollygagging into the office. And for forward financing people is I want them jumping in between people and wanting them to feel that to get and jump in the office. That's our goal. That's the culture we're creating. We're working to create. And then secondly, you can get that, but really what we want to do is also retain the people. So that we want them to have as many options as possible and want to stay with us.
Retention is not something that most of the Inc. Companies have a problem with. I would imagine you probably don't have a problem with retention because they want to come to work. Do you know what your retention numbers are? Or?
Yeah, it's one of our core company goals is less than 5% regrettable turnover, and we're at that. So at or below that. So something we're proud of.
I have talked to a lot of people, and I kind of make this up when I say it. So I'll try to. It seems like as proud as you are of the growth of the company, you're more proud of your retention rate. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say I'm most proud of being able to get the best people, hire the best people, and keep them by far. Growth is great, and I'll talk about why I think we're able to keep people and motivate people, but I think impact is more important.
I feel myself being a little teary-eyed, and I don't normally get emotional on these things, but like I didn't work in that kind of work environment my first 10 years. I showed up, I did the work. I didn't feel like anyone cared about the work environment as a leader. They just wanted me to get my paycheck and do the work. So why is it so different now than it was back then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there are still environments that have that. I've worked. I started my career in investment banking. I've worked in both in the U.S. and Europe. I've worked for large publicly traded companies. I feel fortunate to be in a place where I've been able to learn and see some of the good and not so good in other environments, and make a commitment that any of that not so good that I've seen, we want to keep that out of forward financing. And so that's really been the focus. I don't think if I didn't have those experiences, that we would be able to make the impact or to have the environment and the culture that we do. So I'm thankful for that.
You're not the first person to mention that the professional experience hasn't been all that they wanted to, and they want to create a place in this because you're in control, Justin. I mean, I know you have an executive team, you have people that work around you, but you're in control of that employee experience. But it is so important for you to create something that's not available elsewhere. And I think that really shows up in the retention rate and probably their desire to want to do the work.
Yeah, I think it also shows up in our growth rate. I think we'll talk a little bit about it, but you have people that come to your company, if they don't want to be there, if they don't want to run to work, you're getting 80, 90% out of them, right? Their efforts are there. And for many companies, that's great. But for us and the growth is we need 120%. We need more than 100%. And you get that only when people want to be there. And so what I spend my days, what our leadership spends our day on is what can we do to hire and best position ourselves to hire people that have that are passionate, and then create an environment as well so that once they're here, that you get that 120% out of it, and they frankly enjoy doing it.
Now let's break in here for a second. Promotions. Now, I want to give you some insight because I've worked with some clients specifically on this, and I wanted to share with you what we looked at. When they were looking to hire people that were really great at what they did, they weren't really looking at the experience. They were looking at how they progressed through the organization. So they were looking for the promotions within the same company. They were really looking at how that person evolved from working at one level, but actually moving to the next level. And that was the key to them hiring people that were working at a higher level than their peers. If you are interviewing people that have not been promoted or they're just jumping to be able to get to the next level, then you want to really think twice about that person. A better hire is to look at someone who has been promoted many times and has that sense of loyalty and really getting recognized by their peers. That is a good promotional recruiting kind of tip I can share with you. If you have questions about how to hire the best people, make sure you reach out to me. As always, I'm here to serve you. Now back to Justin. Now I'm going to poke at you a little bit. Do you think it's as high as 80% when they don't want to do the work?
Well, I'm saying average. If they don't want to do the work, definitely not 80%. But I think in an average scenario, in an average company, I would say average to high performer, you're getting 80% out of somebody. And that's probably great for some businesses. For us in a competitive job market, competitive industry, very high expectations and demands from our company, we need more than that.
When you think about creating that kind of environment that people want to go to work to and they're running, what were some of the steps you did to create that? Can you walk us back through the whole process?
So I think it starts with our hiring process. We look to hire people that have a track record of overperforming, regardless of their job history. We want people, if they started as their first job at a restaurant, they were a bar back. We want to see that they became a waiter, and then they went from a waiter that they managed the restaurant, and that they managed the restaurant to joining another restaurant that was a sister company of that to manage that second one. So regardless of someone's resume, we want people that strive and want that overachievement. So that's really important for us. I think so we start with that base, and frankly, you're not just getting one personality type with that. You're getting it is over a wide range of personality types. So we're diversified. But once if and we like to think we have, once you have that type of person, what I focus on, what we focus on, is putting them in a position to have impact. So regardless of their role, sales, technology, accounting, finance, engineering, everything that they do in the way we position and structure their roles is so they feel like they have impact. And that I think is the secret sauce to having someone really be engaged and want to run to work in the morning.
Well, I think I know what that means, but I want to make sure our audience tunes into it. When you say a position of impact, like, break that down for us.
In terms of this, the salesperson, they make that sales call, they close that deal, they onboard that partner, they know that is going to have an impact on our top line. So we can draw a line from what they do in their role to the overall company performance, and we facilitate. We make sure we communicate it. So it's not just any position, any group, any role. Our job as managers in structuring incentives and structuring job performance and objectives has that in mind.
When sales is pretty easy because it's frontline revenue, hopefully profitable revenue. And when you have some of these other key roles like product management, or you have marketing people, I know there's some specifics, but are you challenged to come up with that direct line to company impact?
Yeah. So when we start the year, when we started into this year in 2019, we laid out our company objectives, and we broke it down into financial objectives, operational objectives, and impact objectives. So we had three basically 3 categories. And then within that, we had a waterfall of different specific objectives, whether on an operational side, improve conversion rate, on a foundation side to improve our technology foundation so that our engineers can be more efficient. Every one of those 3 categories down to each objective can effectively get tied back to each role in the company. So someone who is managing our office, from the front desk to general office, they're focused on impact goals. And so they know, one, we want to retain people. And so what can they do? And they know what those numbers are. What can they do to create an environment so that if there's issues, they're able to raise them, if there's changes we need to make. So that's just one example. Sales was an easy one, but every single role will tie back, or part of a role, impact, operational, and financial.
I'm writing that down. That was the 3 categories. Why did you come up with those 3 categories?
We actually start with operational. So which is pretty funny, because I think one of our biggest headlines and success is what's noted is financial, which is top line growth. We're of the mindset that you don't get to high performance, both on the revenue and overall economics, without focusing on your operational goals. And so those are the building blocks, and the financial goals will come out of it. And so we really focus on operational goals, and those are what drives financial performance. Financial performance is the outcome. Yep. Impact goals, I think, frankly, is what keeps people here, is knowing what impact they're having on our small business customer, what impact and how our partners, and so what are the numbers? What are we able to do with the small businesses? I think also in our community. So we're Boston based. We talked about that. We give back. Every employee gives 1 or 2 paid days during the work year volunteering. So it's part team building, it's part giving back. We give company donations. So we want that to be part of our mold, and that. And so that's why we categorize, and everybody plays a part in that.
Let's stop here for a moment. Justin just talked about that it's not about how to do something, but it's about the objective behind it. I want to take that a little bit deeper with you, because I work with companies and leaders to really understand how to show up as a leader. And they feel like the best thing to do is to show them exactly the steps, to give them everything that they need so that they can do their work. And that feels like the right thing to do. But let me ask you, many times, if you want the person to have more confidence and have more courage inside their role, it's not by telling them how to do something, but it's by giving them the end goal and letting them figure out the how themselves. And many times they'll figure out a more elegant, a more savvy, innovative, creative way to do something than you would have done it yourself. And you can always guide them as they move through the process. If they forget a step, or if they haven't really thought through the ramifications or risk level of that approach, then you can ask questions as a coach instead of telling them how to do it. Asking those questions will really help you be the kind of leader that guides them for them to figure it out themselves. It's not about you having all the answers. It's about them having the confidence to figure it out for themselves. Now back to the interview with Justin. Justin, there's some research I've done in this area of fast growth companies where they really want people to take ownership of the work that they do. And that feeling of ownership really does drive people wanting to come to work. And I'm smiling when you say this, because you're talking about these objectives, very high level. They're broken down into granular pieces, and then everyone is able to attach themselves to 1, 2, or 3 of those individual things, and they know that the work they do day in and day out, it aligns to where we're going as a total organization. Do I have that correct?
Exactly.
And I see.
And we break those down quarter. So we have an annual, and then we have quarterly that make up each one of those.
Makes sense, especially when you're fast growing, because it's changing very quickly. And a lot of organizations that aren't growing as fast as you think that that's a nice to have, but they feel like people need more guidance. They feel like they need to tell people how to do the work. And I share with them the kind of insight behind it. It's like, if you have smart people, you don't tell them how to do it. You tell them this is the overall objective. You give them the end goal and let them figure out the how, because that gives them a sense of ownership. Is that something you can say works with you guys?
I think there's nothing more demotivating for someone that wants to be told how to do something, right? Is if you give the objective, educate them, teach them, have a conversation on how to get there, is much more effective. I think, though, if I think back to since 2012 to where we are today, there is no way we would be at where we are if we had to tell people, frankly, anyone how to do their job. In a fast-growing company, everything is going on at the same time, all different places. If you're attempting to tell people how to do things, you're not going to get there.
I appreciate you saying that, because fast-growing companies take a different approach. Like they don't tell people how. They trust them enough. They empower them with, this is where we're going. Your job is to figure out how we do that. And the theory behind it, for me, and when I see it happening in place, and tell me if this is true, they're able to not only figure out maybe even a better way to do it, but as things change, as they do, they're able to refine that, and they're able to keep pushing beyond normal plateaus. You find that kind of works with your team?
Yeah, I would love to say in 2013, 14, 15, we were in a position to lay out exactly where we thought the company would go. And these are our objectives. You put those and you blow past them. When you're growing so quickly, you almost, and we're an entrepreneur. So I'm co-founder. I started the business. We were not financially backed. We bootstrapped the company. So we did not come at it with a VC PE firm saying, here is your objective. This is what you have to go. When you're growing so fast, it's a mix of putting out fires and looking at opportunities and sprinting towards them. So in our early years, I would have loved to say is we were so deliberate in outlining these objectives and hitting them. We were chasing down opportunities and putting out fires and having fun doing it. I would say the transition that we've seen now, and maybe that's because we're going from 15 to 404 and the Inc. rating, is we're much more deliberate about that. So over the last 2 years, we've been much more, here's the objective. And frankly, we have a more predictable business. I think in the early years where people are experiencing thousands of % growth, you have a much less predictable business. I think we have a much more predictable business. And so with that, we've been able to outline those goals and objectives and work towards them.
What would you tell other founders and leaders that are really wanting to create teams that are faster growing, create this sense of work? What would you tell them that you had to let go of as you've evolved as a leader?
I would say for us, and it continues to differentiate, I let go of a lot. Still difficult for me on some things. What I didn't let go of was experience. So experience that our customer feels, experience that our team, our employees feel, overall experience of the business. No one wants to compete on price and have it be a race to the bottom. Is what I haven't let go of, and what I think of and breathe and wake up in the middle of the night is how can we improve the experience, which is the differentiator. Is how do small businesses experience working with us so that they want to continue doing that? That goes back to the people, right? Having employees, having a team that has a terrific experience gets them to run to work in the morning and ideally gets them to stay, which is why we focus on such and are proud of such a low regrettable turnover rate.
I don't know if I've asked you this, but I've asked hundreds of fast-growing company leaders this one question. And as you think about growing the company, what's more important, the employees or customers?
I think for me, no. I mean, it sounds like a hesitation, but if you take care of your employees, you don't have to worry about your customers. They if your employees are happy, if your employees are empowered and trusted, they will no doubt take care of the customers better than you could ever tell them, expect them to. And so our focus is, granted, we're monitoring and we're constantly evaluating our customers, but is 100% on the employee experience, because what we've seen and it works is your customers get taken care of with great, happy, motivated employees.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. Not that it backs up my research, but just because a lot of people will argue that it's chicken and egg, like it's a balance of both. And I get it. It's a hard question because it takes both of these, team members and happy customers. But you got to put one first and let them take care of the customers. So the way I kind of describe it is we're employee first, but we're customer centric.
I think that's perfectly said. Your customer will get taken care of.
Well, Justin, thank you for being here, sharing these insights on, really what does it take to create a place where people want to go to work? And I think that really is the difference, because when they want to go to work, they will bring more creativity, innovation, more resilience to whatever they encounter. And you sharing some of the insights of how you tie it to the impact that the company makes from the day-to-day work that they do is just, spot on. So thank you for being here on the podcast. Great.
Thanks for having me. Talk soon.
Wow, what a powerful interview. I really love so much detail that Justin shared with us about how to show up as a leader. Now, when you think about what you have to do as a leader to engage your employees to take more ownership, there's really a lot to it. And if you have any questions, I would love to know more about you as a leader. So just reach out to me, gene@genehammett.com. If there's any way I can help you, we'll have that conversation. All right. If you are growing fast, you know that you've got to grow yourself faster than the company. Because if you want to grow fast, you must grow your people. And that's what this podcast is all about. So stay tuned to the next interview. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.